Welcome back to the Flex Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike T. Nelson. On this podcast, we talk about all things to increase muscle, performance, improve body composition, do all of it in a flexible framework without destroying your health. Today in the podcast, we have Dr. Antonella Schwarz, and we are talking all about her brand new study she did, which was presented at the International Society of Sports Nutrition in Florida that I was recently at, about Myo-Reps. So if you've not heard of Myo-Reps, she'll explain all about it, what it is, and we'll find out if it is a way of training to save time, or is it just another training technique that maybe not that effective and you should just kind of go back to some basic stuff. So she did a study looking at it, which is great. We also talk about just muscle in general, hypertrophy training, what are some principles you should follow in training, the role of physical therapy, even injury recovery, and a whole lot of other great stuff. So she is an assistant professor of exercise science at Barry University in Miami, specializing in skeletal muscle physiology and strength training. And so it's great to have someone who has her background, who is also from the practical side and the academic side, investigating what are new trends or things that have been around for a while. Is there any science to support them, and what can we learn from it? So I think you will enjoy this podcast. Make sure to check her out. Best place to find her is on the Instagram, and we'll put a link to that down below. And the sponsors of today's podcast, we've got some tasty electrolytes from our friends over at LMNT. So you can check out the link down below. And then we also have ketone esters from our friends over at Tecton Ketone Esters, which I've used yesterday before my training session. And even though I went kiteboarding the day before for 3 sessions, which was great, I still made it through my lower body leg session, which was good. So check them out below. Full disclosure, I do help them on various projects, and I am an ambassador for them. So use the code, but you can save some money there also. And if you want more information on all the stuff I've got going on, in addition to a ton of great info we've got coming out, make sure to hop on to the newsletter, which is free. And I'll even give you a cool free gift. So go to the link here down below. We have the Flexible Meathead Cardio Level 2 coming out. The date for that got pushed to around August 11th now, just because of all the stuff I have going on, and was in Europe helping some athletes over there. So look for that coming out. The newsletter will be the best place to get all of the information on that. And then, depending on when you listen to this, I'm also most likely doing a online mentorship again. It's been about 2 years since I ran it, and it's composed of how to program exercise online, how to create and write newsletters and get clients in an online environment that is getting increasingly more crowded. Newsflash, we will show you how to write, or we can do videos, but it's mainly designed mostly for writing. So if you have no desire to write at all, then, well, this course isn't for you. But if you want to learn how to write in a very short period of time, I think you'll find this super useful. I will be adding some stuff with AI on it, but the primary gist of it is showing you how to write from scratch, because I don't think that process is ever going to go away to zero. We'll also talk about some mindset stuff and personal development. So if you are interested in that, drop me a note ASAP, because it'll probably close pretty soon. I think we'll probably have enough people to get it to go. So if you are interested in that, drop me a note or just hit reply to the newsletter. So enjoy this podcast here with Dr. Schwarz. Good afternoon. How are you today, Doc?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. And we met at the ISSN conference, and you gave a great talk there on the concept of Myo-Reps, which I thought was super interesting. What made you discuss a lifting technique in a study? Well, how did you come up with the idea, or maybe just something like I do where you're like, oh, the certain technique. I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's any literature on this. And you look and go, oh,
Yeah.
there isn't any literature on this.
Yep. That's exactly how we came up with it. I have to give credit to where credit's due to my advisor, Dr. Travis. He is very involved in like the powerlifting world. My background is more so in the bodybuilding world, or like my personal background, I should say. I'm familiar with all the barbell sports and whatnot, but my experience is more so in the bodybuilding world, and his experience is very much in powerlifting. And when we got to chatting about, dissertation time and what could that look like, he brought up the training technique Myo-Reps and was like, hey, there's really nothing on this. This could be a cool avenue to explore. Just kind of put something out there, put some literature out there about it, because a lot of the training techniques do have some form of paper and potential like validation, but there's nothing on Myo-Reps. So when you look it up, nothing pops up. So that was really our goal, is just like put some info out there on it.
Cool. And what is Dr. Travis's last name so I can make notes here?
That's Kyle. His first name is Kyle, last name Travis.
Oh, it is last name Travis. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah,
Got
yeah.
it. Awesome.
Yep.
And well, first off, a two-part question. What exactly is the definition of a Myo-Rep? And then
Yeah.
I'll ask about where did it kind of come from?
Yeah. So it is basically a derivative of rest pause. If you're familiar with rest pause, it's kind of like pre-exhaustion component. Rest pause does chase failure. Myo-Reps does not. Myo-Reps kind of prides itself in that, like in being that 1 to 2 RIR, where you're not, training to failure each time or each set in comparison to rest pause. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how it sells itself.
And
It's like,
RAR
hey,
is reps in reserve.
yep, reps in reserve. So that's kind of the cool part about Myo-Reps. Basically, it's kind of hard to come up with a definition because there's nothing out there. And so that's kind of some of the feedback we've gotten on the paper, like, hey, you need to kind of cite this. I'm like, there's nothing to cite. But basically, it is just kind of leveraging rest intervals and giving you this like pre-exhaustion component in hopes to eliminate like the junk volume, which I don't love that term, but I think it's easy to conceptualize maybe like what you're trying to achieve with Myo-Reps, because if not, then you're like, okay, well, it's just like everything else. And it is like everything else. There's nothing inherently special about it. You're just really cutting down on time. So how you would complete it is you do this activation set with a moderate weight, nothing crazy, maybe like 60-ish, 70% of your 1 RM. And you take it to near failure, right? That 1 to 2 RIR. And usually that looks anywhere between 10 to like 20 reps. And then you'd rest about 5 breaths, anywhere between like 5 to 30 seconds, a lot of auto regulation involved. And then you pick up that same weight and you do that same exercise for a maximum of 5 reps. So you're trying to get between 3 to 5 reps with that minimal rest. And then you take that same short rest again and you complete 3 to 5 more reps, same short rest until your desired number of reps that you've like prescribed for that specific exercise. So really similar to rest pause, just slightly different.
Yeah, what would be I guess, the rest pause way of doing it? Because to me, it kind of
Yeah.
sounds like rest pause, but maybe there's some
Yeah.
differentiation that I'm missing somewhere.
Yeah. So the rest pause, you're chasing failure. So you're trying to get to failure with each.
Ah, so this is you're doing one
Yeah.
to two RER each time
Yeah.
you do it, is that right?
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
So you're not necessarily going to failure. So the Myo-Reps thing is, hey, I guess the theory behind it is kind of like this fatigue dissipation. Like it's advantageous because you're not creating so much fatigue, therefore greater recovery. However, some of the stuff out there is not so solid. So I wouldn't kind of stick my flagpole on that one just yet.
And the weight is the same weight you would do
Yeah.
for all of it then, is that correct?
Yep. Yep. All of it. Yep. Yeah.
Got it. And who is kind of sort of the pioneer of Myo-Reps? Is usually some
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
character behind all these
Yep.
training methods.
Yes, a Norwegian man by the name of, I'm going to butcher it, but Borg for girly.
Yep.
He's kind of, yep, he's the guy who's coined the term, and lots of cool anecdotal evidence for it. He uses it a lot with clients, a lot of bodybuilders use it, a lot of like speculative, like mechanism kind of stuff out there, but nothing concrete. And we're just kind of hoping to kind of put something out there that makes it more concrete. But basically, what we've found and what we've talked to other people who have also explored Myo-Reps in the science research world is that they're awesome because they can really help you cut back on time, but there's nothing really inherently special. We really don't know yet, at least. We can't say like, hey, they're special because XYZ. There just is really no mechanism to support any of that yet. So,
Yeah, and that was my other question of what would be
mhm.
the main, I guess, proposed mechanism or benefit of it as opposed to just doing another set.
Yeah, your traditional resistance training.
Right.
Yeah, I think some of the proposed mechanisms are, I'm sure you've heard of effective reps while
Yeah,
not super
explain that.
supported. Yeah, so basically just kind of reaching this level of excitement, skeletal muscle excitement, fatigue, not fatigue, like metabolic stress, where that's where the gains are made, right? Like those are like the magic reps. Those are the effective reps. So in a set of 10, like your first five are just to get you there, and then your last five are those effective reps, which I don't necessarily believe in that. And there's not a lot of support for the effective reps, like we once maybe thought or speculated, but that's kind of where the
I always
Myo-Reps
feel like that
thing
argument
hangs out. Yeah.
philosophically, if I have enough
Yeah.
beers, I could almost get my head around, but
Yeah,
mechanistically
exactly.
wise, I'm like, so there's something, it's not
Something's
fatigue, but
off.
something else in the muscle at like rep 4. Nope, but rep 5.
Yeah,
Oh.
agreed. Agreed. There's no like I definitely am not gonna die by that at all. And there's no way that, right? Like, oh, from 4 to 5, something magic happens.
Yeah, yeah.
So I definitely don't believe in that. Of course, I think there's some merit to the idea of like,
I like
obviously,
the
with
idea.
accumulation. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
accumulation of stress, I believe that, sure. But I don't think there's a magic number at all, because that'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah. To me, that's just, it sounds like people trying to coin a term around
Yeah.
what I would say is just more high quality work.
Yep.
Which again,
Agreed.
even that when you fall into the hypertrophy literature gets really messy because what is more effective? I mean, we can't even
Yeah.
agree. Do you
Oh,
go to
yeah.
failure? Do you not go to failure? Like it just seems like there's so much disagreement,
Agreed.
and they all have their own kind of data behind them too, I think. But
Yeah, yeah, and there's just a lot of nuance, and you can't really cover it all. And I feel like as much as we want to think that we know a ton about hypertrophy, I really do think it's still like the field itself, or like this, the approach to study is still in its infancy. And I mean, there's so much more to know and discover. And yeah, I always say like I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, just add a spoke. This is just an extra, like a cool little tool to have in your back pocket. Nothing magical about it. No crazy mechanisms here. Just if you're short on time, here's how you can kind of crunch your volume and still see similar gains as your traditional method. That might take you more time. So that's all it
yeah,
is.
and we'll
Yeah.
get into the study you did. But
Yeah.
do you do you think you have to go to failure? Let's say our goal is
Yeah.
100% hypertrophy. We don't care about
Hmm.
performance. We're only focused on hypertrophy.
Yeah.
Do you think you have to go to failure?
I love that question because it's loaded. Like there's so much
Oh, it's totally
nuance.
loaded.
Such a loaded question. I love it though. I love that question. Overall, I would say no. Like no, because if you're thinking long, like long term and making these gains and adaptations and increasing size over time, not just looking at it acutely. Oh, sorry, I exit out the page. Not just looking at it acutely, you just physically can't recover from that many training sessions a week, taking everything to failure. So that's kind of where you get lost in that failure volume world. While yes, you could probably induce the most like damage, tension, stress by going to failure, it's just not conducive to long-term gains. And so you can't just like look at it from an acute point of view. You have to look at it as, okay, if I want to gain mass over the course of a year, I need to be able to get to the gym and get enough volume and get enough training sessions. So I have to recover in between. And if you're taking everything to failure, you just won't. And so you won't ultimately get enough training sessions, enough volume to build the mass. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but no, I don't think you have to go to failure, and I don't think you really should always go to failure if your long-term goal is to grow as large as possible. However, I do think that an occasion you have to go to failure, and I do think that training to failure teaches you how to appropriately not train to failure. Because if you never train to failure, you don't really know what 1 to 2 RIR feels like. And you might be hanging out in 4 to 5 RIR without even knowing it. therefore, not really maximizing hypertrophy training. So yeah, that's kind of the long-winded answer. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even in bodybuilding, drugs aside, like you'll find
Yeah.
people like Mike Mentzer, who was obviously influenced by Arthur Jones, who was very much, only kind of the one set to failure type thing, although most of his stuff was just more of a, I'd say, a logical, philosophical argument more than anything else. And you've got people like Dorian Yates who are kind of in between, who, if you look at a lot of his training, he did do a fair amount of warm-up sets. So he did do, in my
Yeah.
opinion, a fair amount of volume, but did he do as much volume as, Arnold or Jay Cutler or people like that? No, but all of them, you could argue, were extremely successful using what is
Yeah.
apparently different training methods and philosophies too.
Yep. Yep. That's the thing is, even if we did find in a study the one perfect anomaly, the magical new mechanism, then the the how do I say this? The actual like transfer from the paper and the experiment to everybody as an individual, it just isn't always gonna work, right? So like what works for one person, I wish it would work for everybody, but it doesn't always. And so I think that's why like you get caught up on like these philosophies and who's right, who's wrong. Well, it's really not that simple because, right, if something works for a group of people, but it doesn't work for the others, we don't always know why. And I don't know if we ever will. So,
Yeah, I probably told this in the podcast before, but I remember seeing Stu Phillips present at, it was ACSM in, God, this might have been 2008 or something like that. And he put up a plot of a study. I think it was one of the first studies they looked at for hypertrophy. There was a chronic study. And he put up a scatter plot of all the data and showed the line that, these people gain, I can't remember how much, pounds of lean body mass. And you're looking at it, and most of the people are here. There's two dots, like probably two standard deviations above. And there's one guy who technically lost muscle mass or lean
yeah,
body mass, I should say, during the study. And I don't remember if it was myself or someone asked him about it. And he's like, yep, it looks like one person is probably measurement error. I don't think they got worse, but they definitely clearly were well below the other people. And I said,
yep.
well, what about like those two people way at the top who he called the Beef Brothers, who I guess grew up on a farm. They were brothers, and this was not a nutritional controlled study. It was mainly just a training study. And they clearly seem to be like hyper responders. And I think
Yeah,
that's what I think it was Dan West who later did the research on testosterone responses to training and stuff. The theory at that time was maybe these people are hyper responders to the hormonal output from training. Turns out that doesn't really appear to be a thing, at least in, you know,
yeah,
non-exogenous hormonal use. But even then, it's always interesting how I think the future is trying to figure out, like you said, per individual, what does that individual need? Because if you've
right.
worked with people long enough, like I've worked with people who definitely do better on that more higher intensity, lower volume. I would say anecdotally, they're not the norm. I tend to be more the let's push volume type thing. Let's not, train to failure all the time. But do you think there's individual differences? And if there there any way to really know like what end of the spectrum you may lean more towards?
Right. I definitely think there's individual differences. And I wish I had the answer to how or why or how to
Yeah,
know.
I have
You
no
know,
idea. So
I have no idea. Yeah, same. I have no idea. And I'm still such a newbie in the field. And it definitely intrigues me. And that's a question that I always think about. Like, why are there such like large differences between, individuals when they're doing the same thing and everything's so controlled? I wish I had the answer to that, but I don't. But I think that's also what makes, at least currently, coaching and working with humans in the clinical population, as well as just with Gen Pop, like such an art. And sure, we have all these these answers on paper and in research and in articles. And of course, we should be informing our practice with evidence, but there's also an art to it. And knowing when to use what and how much and where, when, why, and with the proper individual. I think that's what kind of makes like it separates like good and great coaches because we all have access to the same like information and guidelines and whatnot, but how it gets applied and how it might work for one individual or the other is kind of up to the coach, their discretion, their knowledge, and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's kind of the fun part about the world that we're in is it kind of makes it it separates the good and the great. And I think it's great for now. And maybe one day we'll have all the answers and protocols specific for people and it'll be easy. But I think that would take like the human nature out of it.
Yeah, it seems like there's also kind of a in the coaching world, the cult of personality where you've got still the Arthur Jones kind of diehards, one set to failure. You've got
Yeah.
more of the volume-based people. And I'm sure that maybe subconsciously each of those groups sort of attracts the group that maybe would respond better or at least might be more enjoyable to that area. So you're really kind of working with a biased group of people, which
Yeah.
again, if you're running a business and you can get results for people doing that, like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's also then hard
Hmm.
to say my way is the be all end all when you're working with
Yeah.
a very probably biased population to start with.
Totally. Which is why I think that all researchers and coaches need to remember that. Like they need to remember that there is a lot of nuance. And I was just talking to Dr. D'Souza today about this. Like he posted a video, like we get stuck in like these echo chambers when we,
Oh yeah.
study this specific population and this specific way of training or lifting and gaining and losing. And like it's just so like one-sided sometimes and we forget that like it's not black and white. It's such a spectrum. So I agree. I think that every coach, just because it works for you and your population, that doesn't mean it's the one way, right? Because then you get stuck in that echo chamber and to like realize that like yeah, it's like this could be a biased population, this could be specifically because of who I've attracted and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think there's so much that's unknown. I remember having this
Yeah.
conversation at, was it ACSM or maybe it was even ISSN, like maybe 5 years ago with Dr. Lane Norton and Dr. Mike Roberts, Mike will be back on the
Yeah.
podcast again. Asked them, I'm like, do you know exactly like how hypertrophy even happens? We had this long discussion about myonuclear domain and a bunch of other, it was a great discussion. And at the end, I remember Mike just kind of saying, he's like, I don't know exactly for sure, man.
Yeah. I
And
know
this
he
is like
gave
one of
the
the
best
top
talk.
researchers in the world on it. It's like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he gave such an incredible talk this
yeah,
past ISSN. And yeah, that was really like the premise of it. I was like, look at all this awesome, like, look at all this awesome data and like, look at everything that we know, but it is just a drop in the ocean of what we don't know. And I think that is such a great perspective to have. And, if you get stuck on the one thing that you do know or like the little bit that you know, then you kind of neglect the rest. And it's such a missed opportunity. So yeah, I love that kind of like humble approach. Like you have to like have like a healthy respect for the science. It's kind of like the ocean. Like you have to have this like healthy respect for the ocean because we don't know, right? Like what's 99% of it. And that's kind of how
yeah.
I feel about skeletal muscle research.
What do you think about my little pet theory? And I can't claim to be the person who came up with this. I probably stole it from somebody, and if I stole it from you, like, please let me know. But we've got a pretty good idea if you want to what to do to train to get stronger, but we have
Yeah.
less idea of hypertrophy. My pet theory is that hypertrophy is more like an air quote side effect than it is like the main thing. It feels to me like at some point the muscle's like, hey, we just can't get any stronger or we're going to have some integrity issues. And so we just have to get a little bit bigger because this crazy Yahoo keeps doing this type of stress to us all the time. What are
I
your
love
thoughts
that.
on that?
I love that. No, I definitely see that. I like to think of like strength and hypertrophy working in unison, kind of like a
Yeah.
valley, hill. Like you really like you have to focus on one to get up to the next one, then you gotta like focus on the other one to get back up to the next one, especially as a strength athlete. I think maybe less as a hypertrophy athlete. So yeah, I do think that's a cool theory, and I think that there's some merit to that. That's how I think of it, kind of like a rolling hill. Like you need one to get to the other, you need it again to get back to the other. And so I do think they work kind of hand in hand like that. And like you eventually strength is like, hey, yeah, we do need to get a little bigger if you want to move up to the next, the next step. And then you kind of play on hypertrophy a little, and then you can go back to like your big strength goals. And so I agree. And that's kind of like why Myo-Reps has infiltrated the powerlifting world because you can use it not just on machines or just specific to bodybuilding. You can use it for strength as well because you are keeping, volume relatively low compared to your traditional hypertrophy training. However, we'll talk about this in a little bit. In my study, we equated the volume, but you don't always have to equate the volume. Dr. D'Souza out of Tampa did their papers in review right now, but they didn't equate the volume. And so you can and they got similar results. And so you can kind of see how a powerlifter would be inclined to use Myo-Reps instead of traditional hypertrophy for like that strength hypertrophy phase, just because of less volume. So yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Like strength and hypertrophy are definitely matching. Like I think of the example of like Kendrick Ferris when he was competing for Olympic weightlifting. I always think of
Hmm.
like weight class sports because something that's in a class that's televised, that is a weight class sport, like it's very easy to verify numbers, right? You don't have to go like this
Yeah.
person said this or that. That if you see this across all sports, like if you go up in a weight class, like almost all your max lifts, whatever your sport is, go up. Like you can definitely get relative strength, like you can definitely get
Yeah.
stronger at a certain weight, but it just feels like that at some point just gets to be capped and you're just trying to eke out like, 0.02% more where those athletes are allowed to then add more lean body mass, hopefully a lot of portion of that is muscle. You see their performance then goes up at the next level like quite a bit in a short period of time too.
Yeah, there's definitely crossover. There's definitely crossover. And I try to take my time teaching this in my classes because they're not the same, right? And we know that, but
Right.
there's this crossover. So you have to like almost teach it very carefully so that people don't get confused. Like they're not the same. They don't like work inversely. They don't work. There is this crossover, but and so there's like the delicate fine line of like how do they work? And then when you're talking about weight class sports, like should you train hypertrophy? What if the person doesn't want to put on extra weight, extra mass, right? That could really change up. So, like, do you focus more on strength or what does that look like? And so that's kind of where knowing the difference between the two and how to implement them, at least for now, like we're talking sports performance, that really matters, especially in these weight class sports. So, yeah,
Yeah. And
there's
even
like,
that, like
yeah,
if you just pick on Olympic weightlifting, like you have
yeah,
the Chinese, which are, notoriously known for doing a fair amount of hypertrophy work where
yeah,
other people are not. And then you're like, well, maybe that's their structure. Maybe they need to do more hypertrophy work because they tend to be smaller stature, different bone structure.
yeah,
Who knows? But arguably, there's a lot of people that look different that are very successful, even in just the sport of Olympic weightlifting. They all
right.
are kind of similar, but yet not. And so that's
Yeah.
where even within, you confine it to one sport, it gets messy. And then you throw in track and field or more fuzzy
Oh
sports
gosh,
like
yeah.
American football and everything, hockey, like
Mm.
it gets messy real fast.
Oh yeah, it really does. I know. It really does. I like to spend a lot of time on that topic because that's where the art form comes in, right? I mean, you're not trying to put on a ton of mass on every athlete, especially in weight class sports. And so, what does that look like in the weight room? Should they not go to the weight room? That's always the question I get. No, that's not true. They should go to the weight room. But like, are they going to be, doing a ton of myo reps? Like, probably not. Like, are they going to be working more on strength potentially? What does that look like? So, I do love that topic.
Yeah. And related to your study, so tell us about the
Mhm.
study and what did you do? Obviously, you were looking at Myo-Reps and what was it
Yeah.
compared to?
Traditional hypertrophy. So like your traditional 3 by 10, couple minutes rest in between, compared to Myo-Reps, which is like that activation set with the really short rest and the mini sets preceding it. And we equated the volume. So they did in intensity match. So it was essentially the same exact program, just Myo-Reps was manipulated, like the rest was manipulated, the rest time in between. And we were looking for potential differences between the groups, which we didn't find anything, which is kind of cool because,
Yeah.
right, similar results. But what we did find was the Maya group spent 2/3 of the time working out. So
Hmm.
pretty neat. We had
So
a
they
lot
got
of
the same
issues.
result with
Yeah.
less time.
Yeah, the same result with less time. So we had a lot of issues with like dropouts and all that fun stuff. So we're having some trouble publishing this stuff. But it's really just an exploratory study. And I think the major finding is the component of the time. Like, hey, you can achieve similar things in just less time. And even if it's not so similar, like gains wise, it still takes a lot less time. And that could be great for maybe athletes, powerlifting student athletes, parents, people who just need to get in and out of the gym. And we know, right, the importance of skeletal muscle mass. So if we can kind of hand somebody a tool or give them a tool to just have in their back pocket where they could still gain mass pretty similar to your traditional training that might take them an hour plus in the gym, depending on their program, and it could cut that time in, you know, nearly half, then why not, right? So just, hey, look at this cool method that you could potentially utilize. And that was really the main finding.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Related to this study, my bias is I think rest periods are the most abused parameter in strength training, period. Unfortunately, more I'd say by general population. Like if you go to most gyms, you'll see, this is usually dudes, rest way too long. It's like, really, do you need to scroll your phone for 7 minutes while you're taking a nap on the pec deck like a stuffed animal? Like, I don't think you really need to do that. And unfortunately, not to say it's mostly women. Women on the other side tend to turn strength training into circuit training, which is a metcon, which is its own thing. If you want to do that,
Yeah.
great. Like by all means, like, but that's like a separate thing. I don't
Yeah.
know. It just feels like to me like rest periods are just abused across the spectrum.
No, I agree. I don't think the rest periods get enough like
And no one
credit
wants to
because
talk about it.
nobody wants to talk about it. And I think that's really the biggest differentiator between like your goals and what you're training for, right? If you're training for hypertrophy, if you're training for strength, and you're training for power, if you're training your Olympic lifts, like the rest in between each set is really what makes it conducive to your goals, right? It's really all about the energy systems and how much time you have to recover in between each set. Like, what are you tapping into more? And so, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the rest periods get enough like credit for what they actually do. And if your goal is hypertrophy, but you're resting 7 minutes in between each set, I don't really know how conducive that might be to your goals. So I'm sure there's some literature out there, but I haven't quite read it yet. But I think it'd be interesting to see like, are there differences in gains if you're resting, your average 1 to 2-ish minutes in between each set? Or what if you sit on your phone and scroll for 5 to 7 minutes? Is that going to affect anything? Likely, but are you going to get stronger? Maybe, because that is more conducive to strength. So that is you're right. I think rest does not get enough credit for what it can do.
Yeah. And I think Branch Schoenfeld has done, I think, 2 studies on this now. And I
Yeah.
think he's shown longer rest periods were better for hypertrophy, which, again, if you could do higher quality work, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't quote me on this. I want to say, I think he compared 1 minute to 3 minute rest periods or something like
Okay. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being super long in either
Like super long.
direction.
Yeah.
And my other pet peeve, I feel like I'm just ranting at you now, is that
I love this.
this concept of because humans think linearly, and I think we can blame bodybuilding on DeLorme 3 by 10 if forever if we want to do that.
Mhm.
It's never made any darn sense to me that like if you let's say 5 sets, let's say you're an old school Bill Starr 5 by 5, which is great. Do you really need the same rest period between set 1 and 2 as you need between set 4 and 5 of like heavy ass deadlifts? I would argue you probably need a lot more rest to keep the quality of work higher between four
Right.
and five. But then
Totally.
why does every strength thing, and not dependent on the NSCA or anyone else, but everybody does this. Oh, it's just a 60 to 90 second, and if you want more power, you need to rest longer, which I agree with. But like, why do they always make the rest periods like the same length? Like I make them asymmetric and I just do it like an auto-regulatory biofeedback. Like
Yeah.
once you feel good, your heart rate's below 90, you feel like you can hit that 5 reps again, then you go. If that's
Yeah.
30 seconds after set 1 to 2, great. If that's 3 minutes after set 3 to 5 or 4 to 5, great. I don't care. I
Yep.
want to see the quality of the work done more so than this arbitrary time period.
I totally agree. And that's why I like ranges and then telling people to not scroll, not like don't
Yeah.
dissociate between your sets. Like stay
Yeah.
associated, stay locked in so you don't forget what you're doing and give like I like to give a range. I do this for myself too. Like give myself a range. So I'm working on my deadlifts. I'm giving myself anywhere between like 2 to 3.5 minutes and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
watching the clock. I'm watching the clock. So I've already done the math, like, okay, 2 minutes from now is XYZ, 3.5 minutes from now is XYZ. Once it hits 2 minutes, if I feel ready, I'll go. If I don't, and usually in those later sets, I don't feel ready at 2 minutes. I give myself to that 3, 3.5, sometimes even 4, depending on how I'm feeling.
Sure.
And then I go. So I totally agree with you. I agree. I think giving a range and then telling people don't scroll, stay associated, stay locked in, listen to yourself and sit down, rest. I like to tell people to sit too. Sitting is important, I feel like, in between, especially if you're working on that strength and power. But yeah, I agree. I think the rest needs to be given in a range and then graded as stuff gets tougher in those later sets.
And you said there was some dropout in this. Do you know
Yeah.
kind of why? I mean, that's very typical of any
Yeah. Any
chronic
training
strength training
study.
study,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it was just tightly controlled. So, I mean, I was on these guys' asses all the time. Like, and I mean, it was nutrition controlled too. So, like, I mean, I'm having them track protein. I'm looking at their logs every day. Like, hey, it's 2 p.m. Where's your breakfast? Hey, you didn't hit your protein goal. Hey, this, hey, that. I mean, the training was, it wasn't just like a single body part or
Yeah, tell
two
us about the training
exercises.
setup that you used.
Yeah, it was a full, I mean, full powerlifter-esque training routine, 3 days a week. They're squatting, benching, deadlifting, accessory work. So it wasn't easy. It was not easy, and it was really tightly controlled. We had 1 RM testing pre-post, and then we also 1 RM tested 7 days after training cessation just to look at like fatigue dissipation. I have an abstract for that actually at NSCA next week.
Oh,
Yeah. And so it was just a lot of commitments, a lot of early testing. We did our RMR testing. We did the 1 RMs, we did circumference, we did so much. And so I think people just couldn't commit for that long. I mean, 8 weeks too. And it wasn't an in-person where I'm watching them training study. It was essentially virtual. Like all the testing was in person, but their training was on their own. But I had them submit video of every single set and rep. So consistent video uploading. I'm watching a ton of videos every single day. Um,
glamorous life of a PhD.
yeah, I mean, it's like 4 a.m., wake up, go to the lab. I'm watching videos all day. It's just nonstop. And so I think it was just really tightly controlled, and people were just like, oh, can't do this. I mean, week 2, week 3, everyone's like, oh, can't keep up, can't post videos, not logging. So I have to just kick them out. So it was
Yeah.
tough, but yeah.
And I know, like, because everyone's a critic of studies online now, and half the people have never
Yeah,
published a friggin' study in their life.
it's
But
hard.
it's like, bro, like, if you've been in the lab at like 4 or 5 in the morning to turn the machines on to be calibrated, to do
Yeah,
testing, to have like half the people oversleep or not show up, to
yeah,
reschedule, to
yeah,
anyway. So I get it that yes, 8 weeks from a physiologic time frame is definitely short.
yeah.
But as you know, like the longer you run that study, your risk of dropouts, your
Oh,
risk of
yeah.
everything else goes up, and you could run a 16-week study and you may not even have enough data to freaking publish anything. So now you
Yeah,
went
that's,
from
yeah.
like something to nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel like this is the kind of the boat I'm stuck in right now, but that's okay. There's always a way, there's always a home for, a paper, and a lot of fun abstracts, a lot of fun combos have come from this. I mean, I've learned so much just about like the nuances of training, conducting a training study, and I
Everyone's a
have,
training expert online too, in
oh
addition to
yeah,
nutrition.
oh my gosh, I have so much respect now for people who conduct training studies on the regular. It's babysitting.
It's
It's
a
it's
pain in
like
the
so much.
ass, is what it
It is
is.
such a pain in the ass. And so I have just learned so much, and it's been great. Even though like it didn't turn out how I wanted it to turn out with like numbers wise, it was still great, and I appreciate it for what it was.
And did you see any, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did not see any difference in hypertrophy or strength or resting metabolic rate or any other markers you tested?
No, nothing major, nothing significant. Everybody essentially improved in everything. Really, the major difference was the time component.
And what was like a time, so in this study, so people have an idea, like was it,
Yeah,
I think you said it was 2/3, so like a 60-minute session would have been 40 minutes, like in terms
yeah,
of actual times
yep.
comparison between the groups.
Yes, I believe the traditional group, they averaged 83 minutes for a training session across the 8 weeks. So that's 24 different sessions for a total of an average of 83 minutes per session. And then the Myo group, I believe, was 50 something minutes,
Mm,
50, yeah, so just under an hour. And then the trad group was about almost an hour and a half.
very cool.
So major difference. Yeah.
Awesome. So do
Yeah.
you have a, once you recover from this and decide to do another training study, you forget about how miserable it was conducting it? Or what are your
Yeah.
plans for the future?
Yeah, I know. I definitely want to do more training studies. I need to gather a team though. Like like I didn't have a big enough team for this Myo study, so it was a lot of just me, doing everything. So I think having a really good team could make it happen. Having a really good lab, like a nice lab with my own equipment, like training, like proper training equipment, some barbells, and I think I would need to have this set up before I could attempt it again. But yeah, I would definitely attempt it again. There's just like so many questions, like we've already talked about, so many questions that are unanswered. And I'm really passionate about like bridging the gap between this and like this bro science, as well as like the clinical side of it and how there's a translation. And we know Gen Pop also needs to worry about skeletal muscle mass, not just
Yes.
for aesthetics, but for health. And so I think that's kind of the avenue I want to take in the future is how can we translate some of these like training studies to also matter and also, help the clinical population or even just Gen Pop. That's really what I'm passionate about. So that's definitely the avenue I see the training studies going in.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Do you use this method in your own training? I know you mentioned you did more physique
Yeah.
sports in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've done some physique sports in the past. Yes, I competed in bodybuilding. It was fun. Taught me a lot about myself, mentally, physically. Taught me a lot about the respect it takes and like the time it takes. And I have a lot of respect for bodybuilders because building
It's a
muscle
24/7
mass,
thing.
it's a job. It is such a job. And yeah, I just feel very fortunate to have had that experience before even knowing I liked science. And now liking this kind of science, I really have such a respect for hypertrophy training, whether it's for just aesthetics or whether it's for health and for life or post injury, post surgical, atrophy that you need to rebuild. I feel like I really know what it takes physically, not just like textbook wise. Myo-Reps specifically, I piloted the program, so I did most of the program, and it's brutal. You feel swollen, which is great,
Hmm.
right? Crazy pumps. But I don't regularly train hypertrophy. Like it's not really my goal. I think some of my accessory works are tailored towards hypertrophy just for the extra volume. But most of my training, my current training is just some Olympic weightlifts, some Olympic weightlifting, and I love a good deadlift. So I have those in there often. But yeah, no, I don't do a ton of my reps right now. That's not to say I definitely have done them in the past, and that's not to say I won't do them in the future, because with time constraints, who knows what kind of, it's good to have these tricks up your sleeve. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. What are your main
Mhm.
lifting goals or performance goals now?
Yeah, I'm on a mission to deadlift 315 pounds. So that's kind
Oh,
of the
nice.
latest goal. Yeah,
Awesome. How close are you?
I've hit 300 I would
Okay.
say pretty easily, just a single 1 RM. I
Awesome.
had
And
more
do
in
you
the
mind
tank.
stating what your body weight is for listeners, if that's okay?
Yes, I'm about 148 pounds.
Okay, yeah, so that's
Yeah,
definitely up
yeah,
there. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So 2x body weight deadlift for sure is there. I just need to, hit the 315. I want to load the 3 plates on. I want to know what that feels like.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So that's the latest performance goal. And then just squat cleaning 165 is the latest performance goal. I know for
Oh,
the
nice.
Olympic weightlifters out there, it's not that impressive. But for me, who's not like a Olympic sport person, Olympic weightlifting like competitor, I'm also like a runner and I like to like lift in other ways and manners. So for me, that's my personal goal. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so that's really those are the two main goals right now.
And you said you do a fair amount of aerobic stuff too, is that right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I love to run. I've run one marathon in my past. I've
Oh,
run
nice.
a lot of half marathons. I That's my favorite distance. I love a good half marathon. I try to just keep the aerobic work in really like pretty regularly. I have a run club I started at home with just like a random group of people around the neighborhood, and every Thursday we run anywhere between like 20, 30 minutes. So that's kind of my like low dose aerobic work throughout the week. And then I'm a big time sprinter. I love a good sprint session, whether
Mm.
that's if I can get on a track or if I can get on an air runner, or sometimes it's just assault bike intervals, but that's definitely a weekly or bi-weekly staple as well.
Do you worry about any of the potential interference between lifting and aerobic stuff, or do you think that's been overdone? I know everyone
No,
has their own
yeah.
biased opinion.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'm definitely not worried about it. I don't think if anything, I think it enhances, like the aerobic work enhances my like strength performance
Yeah,
just because
I
I
would
can
agree.
recover. Yeah, I can recover between sets so fast. Therefore, I can usually get more work done. I have enough gas after like my heavy kind of strength work to do the rest of the volume for my workouts. So no, I think it actually complements it really nicely. I think, of course, if I was out running like, 100 miles a week, it'd be a different
Oh,
story,
sure. Yeah,
but
that's different.
yeah, different story, but I don't run that much. I try to keep it pretty like sprinty and then one shortish, longish run a week.
Yeah, and if you look at the literature on that, like you need a pretty high
Yeah.
dose to start having an interference effect. Unless you're just all out speed and power, then like, yeah, that's
Right.
a little bit different. And even then, like running is probably the one modality you would see it more before cycling and rowing and anything else, just because of the impact on the lower body. But
Yeah.
even then, you still need, I can't remember the exact numbers offhand, but it's pretty high mileage that most people are probably just not going to
Yep.
get to.
Totally. I think a lot of the like, oh, interference effect or a lot of other, I don't even know what other examples I can think of off the top of my head, but a lot of these like cautionary like statements are just so far out of people's scopes that they don't have to worry about. Oh, like the women getting bulky from strength training. Like you have
Oh,
to really work hard to get bulky. Like, and no offense to my girls out there, but if you're already scared of lifting, like the chances of you working hard enough to get bulky are slim to none. And so I don't, that's definitely another one that people just don't need to worry about. So yeah, I think a lot of these cautionary like statements are just way far out of the scope of anybody.
yeah. I like the Dan John quote. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, don't worry. We'll cut you back just before that happens.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll let you know. You'll know.
Yeah. And I'm like, I've been lifting moderately heavy. Again, my goal is not
Yeah,
not hypertrophy at all costs for like 3 decades. And I wouldn't say I'm a huge mammal. You
right.
know, I'm
Yeah,
like,
totally.
and there are
Totally.
hyper responders, there are freaks out
Yeah.
there, there are outliers, but
Yeah.
they're also the outliers. So the odds of them being
Yeah.
you are very slim.
Agreed. And I think a lot of it, especially now I'm thinking about like the women getting bulky thing, but it gets conflated with like fat mass. And people think, oh,
Oh, sure.
I'm getting bulkier because I'm lifting. Like, not necessarily. Sure, to the naked eye, you might be, but that's just because maybe it's time to lean out a little bit, right? Like, you want to change the composition of your body. You don't necessarily want to be bulky, but you should want to change the composition of your body, gain mass, lose body fat, and that's usually like this desirable toned look that people are looking for. They just don't realize it, and so that's like another part that I really try to like educate clients and students is lifting inherently doesn't make you bulky. It just is the composition of your makeup. And that's probably what needs addressed. And that doesn't always include, or that doesn't always mean that what you're doing in the gym is wrong. Like maybe let's look at nutrition as well, or let's look at sleep habits and let's look at everything else before, we make the gym the bad guy. But the gym always gets the bad rep and it makes me so sad. It's not the weights. It's not the weights.
Yeah, and it seems like, I don't know if you'd agree with us, that for women, somehow the body weight of 120 to 130 just got stuck in every female client's head I've ever worked with. Like even
Mm-hmm.
female athletes who are, one of them was 5'10". She's like, oh, I should be like 130. And I'm like, what? What are you?
No.
And so I literally had to show her like pictures of Olympic level athletes that were very lean. Granted, they did have some muscle,
Yeah.
who weighed 165 to 190,
Yeah.
who were 5'8" to 5'10" and a half. And if you looked at them just in street clothes, I guarantee most people would never guess their body weight was
Right.
close to that.
Right.
So it's just this weird, distorted, I don't know
I
how that
know.
perception happened, I guess.
I know. I know. I hate the hyperfixation on like the number on the scale. Like it doesn't tell us really anything. Like more so, what do you feel like? What do you look like? Like body composition tells us a lot more of the story than just the number on the scale. And so it's a big one too that I like to harp on.
Yeah, and I had another client. She was in the lab I worked in for a while as a student, and she was the top UFC fighter, was on TV,
That's awesome.
and you would see her in street clothes, and you'd be like, "Yeah, definitely looks like she trained." And I think her body weight at weigh-in was 148, and nobody would guess that her weight was that high, because she wasn't a
Right.
real tall athlete. But I would show this to students all the time to show here's someone who's incredibly lean, a very high level athlete on an actual televised weigh in for a legitimate fight. So, no one faked her weight, because
Right.
I've worked with other figure athletes who did a photo shoot for a magazine that's now defunct, and her body weight was 155, and the magazine listed her at 132. She's like, what
Oh
is this? She's
no.
like, I don't weigh that. So just trying to show at least some female athletes of like, here's an example of someone who is, very lean, and this is what they actually weigh. And all the students were like, they're like all
Yeah.
aghast that like someone weighed that much, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I actually run into that myself. Like, I feel like people don't think that I weigh close to 150 pounds when I tell them, but like I do. And I think
Yeah.
it's like they don't like I'm sure and but my composition's just a lot different than maybe somebody else. I've been lifting for many years and whatnot. So I think it is kind of shocking, like, oh, you're 5'4" and you weigh 150 pounds. Like, I don't doesn't seem right. I'm like, yeah, that's right. And like I don't focus on that number. I focus on like the composition, how I feel, how my clothes fit, and yeah, it's just when I know, like when you have muscle, you just weigh more. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and that it's hard to explain that obviously via physics, a pound of muscle and a pound of fat are still a pound. They still weigh the
yep,
same.
still the same.
But in terms of density, like muscle is
Yeah,
so much more dense and just literally takes up less space. So
yep,
you can literally weigh even sometimes more and
but be
paradoxically look
smaller.
smaller.
Yep, yep, totally,
And I believe you've
totally.
done some other certifications and other things related to the sports realm, correct?
What was that?
I think you've done other, like, besides your PhD, you've worked with
Hmm.
athletes and you've done, I think, were you an LMT or LAT and worked on
Oh
some other
yeah.
aspects too?
Yes, I'm an ATC, and so I
ATC,
work as
that's
an
what it was. I'm
athlete.
sorry.
No, you're good. I was confused by the question, but yes, you're right. So some of my work is also, I started off as more like a clinical practitioner, working with injuries, working with rehabs, working kind of in that athletic training, sports medicine realm. I've always loved strength and conditioning. I've always loved sports. And when I was in college, I originally wanted to be like a medical doctor. I wanted to be an ortho.
Mm,
I was like, I'm determined to be an orthopedic surgeon. It's going to be great. And that didn't end up working out. That's just really not what I ended up wanting to do. And that's really how I got into science and academia. And that's also where my love for like the science of strength and conditioning started to flourish and blossom. And I found that the clinical practical side just didn't lean as much as I wanted on the evidence. And that's really what started to pique my interest in like, okay, what's all the science about? And all these people I look up to have these things called PhDs. And at the time, like, I don't know, in undergrad and even in my master's, I didn't love research. It wasn't something that I ever saw myself going into. And I'm a first generation college student, so nobody in my family
mm.
knows anything about like PhD or anything like that. So I just like was when doing my own research, right? When doing like looking up why do people get cupping done? Why do people, all of these like modalities that you use in like PT, AT, all the people that I respected that had good information all had PhDs. And I was like, wait, interesting. So that's kind of how I started to explore that route. Really, just like I was missing the why behind the things that I was doing as a clinician. So that, yeah, it led me down the PhD research academia path. And now I'm kind of on a mission to bridge the gap because there's a lot of things that get done in like sports medicine specifically that just don't have a lot of merit, but it feels good and athletes like it and it's kind of clickbaity, so people do it, but at some point, are you just wasting your people's time? Are you wasting their rehab, right? I mean, if the goal is player availability, don't you want the best evidence, the most efficient form and way to get them back on the field? And yeah, that's where the passion kind of came from.
Yeah, I feel like that, not to say something bad about a whole entire field, but I feel like it's this weird bipolar thing where on one hand, there's still a lot of the just, rice injuries, even though we've got tons of data showing ice probably isn't the best
Yeah,
thing. I could maybe let it go for 24 hours, reduce local inflammation, but if it's like 2 weeks later and you're still like icing the crap out of stuff, like I don't know, but it seems like there's a lot of protocols that are very much this is what we've always done, this
yeah,
is what we're gonna do. And then you've got the flip side of the craziest shit you've ever seen done by groups of people who don't ironically test anything. It's
yeah.
like, I'm okay
It's
with you
insane.
doing wacky, weird shit, but you need to then demonstrate that your wacky, weird shit like did
It's
something. Even if it's an N
working.
of
Yeah,
one, even if it's just the person sitting in
right.
front of me, like you need to give me some data here, please.
Yep, yep. That's seriously how I got into academia because I was the practicing clinician and I was like, how do we know we're helping this person? Like, why am I doing the same thing, massage and cup and doing these baby exercises when I know they're stronger than that? Like, why am I doing this? Is this actually helping? And that is really truly what led me to studying more because it just felt wrong sometimes. And you're right, there's a lot of things that are just done and not measured. And I mean, you're playing with people's lives here. Like your athlete tears their ACL and they are post-op and let's say they're, I don't know, a couple weeks out and they're starting to regain some strength, but they're still doing banded leg lifts. Like, if you know anything about the science of hypertrophy, that's not gonna,
But more
combat the
clamshells, that'll
atrophy.
fix that glute
Yeah,
med. Like it's week 27, man. It's gonna
it's
work this week.
insanity. Yeah, and so that is irks me because the science is so simple and not simple because we just talked about how it's so
Yeah,
complex
yeah, but
actually, but
principles.
the principles, yeah, the principles are there. So if we know how to increase muscle mass, why are we not applying those principles, like the foundations, to somebody who is desperate for it, who their right quad is atrophied X% from surgery? Why are we not applying the same principles? Why are we, handicapping them and giving them clamshells and banded leg raises and ankle weights? I mean, we know how to build mass. Like that's where like my passion for the translation from the bro science of the clinical population is was born. Is like if we know how to like do it on these people, how could like these principles not apply to the people who, just not just came out of surgery, but are farther along in the rehab that they could get on a leg extension machine? I mean, you can have them do my reps for Christ's sake. Like, why are they still doing clamshells? And so yeah, that's my passion, my burning passion.
No, that's cool. And the
Yeah.
people I follow in that realm who are some of my mentors, they're almost always, this sounds bad to say, but never from that field. They're usually from a different field, and they're almost always viewed as the weird, crazy person.
Yeah.
And yeah, they do some weird stuff, but at the end of the day, they're the people that are called in to fix like multi-million dollar athletes when nothing else works either. And as weird as some of the stuff they do, they can point to a track record. And when I've worked with them one on one, they can at least show, okay, here's how I would test this, here's how I would test that. They're very regimented about what they're actually testing, whether that's manual muscle testing or vertical jump or HRV or whatever metric you want to pick.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so odd to me that it's this dichotomy of protocol based stuff, which doesn't seem to work. You've got the
Uh,
crazy people who don't seem to test stuff. And then you've got what I call the fixers that come in and just piss everyone else off, but yet seem to get a result. And yet people in the organization aren't like, hey, what did you do? How did you do that? They're just mad at them and then just pay a bunch of money to fix the person. And then they go back and break them again. And
yeah. It's a mess. It's a mess. Like if you're not testing, you're just guessing. And if you're
yeah,
just guessing with people and their lives and their livelihood and their passions and their sports and what brings them identity in life, then I mean, you suck at your job. And so I think that needs to be fixed. And there needs to be an awakening because you cannot just be guessing with people and their rehabs and the exercises. And I mean, there's got to be a method to the madness and you have to know why and you have to back it up. And how do you get buy-in from your clients or your athletes and your teams if you are not telling them why you're doing things? That's a huge red flag to me. Like if I ask you why, you should know why, or at least have a justification or can point me in the right direction, not just because, oh, that's what the protocol says. If you're 6 weeks out, we have to do XYZ. Well, if Johnny is 6 weeks out and he's feeling really strong and Lindsay's 6 weeks out and she's feeling even stronger, should they do the same thing? No, right? And so you have to have like the autonomy and the experience as a clinician, whether that's backed up by data plus experience or just data to like make these decisions and these choices. Like, hey, yeah, the paper protocol says at 6 weeks you have to be doing this, but you look a lot better. Let's try this or let's slowly progress this. So you can't get stuck on what you like always learn in school. They give you a paper like this is what an ACL protocol looks like or rehab looks like. Like, I mean, it's okay to use it as a skeleton, but
yeah,
there's a lot of nuance. So yeah.
yeah. And I won't say what organization, but a organization of professional athlete that is on record making millions of dollars a year. And my argument to them was, I don't necessarily have to be right with all this stuff. Like we can test all of this and we can have a discussion about is X test the best test or the not the best, or we can have a discussion about what is the best testing or what outcomes. But gone are the days of just guessing and hoping that
Yeah.
X thing works for 8 weeks. Like we don't
Yep.
even, that is so, in my opinion, outdated. Like, and we don't, and if you test all the stuff, there's no ego involved. It's no, this person was right, that person was wrong. Like, I don't care. Like, you show me a better way to do it and you can show me the data in front of me. Cool,
Yeah.
let's go with that. And then
Yeah.
you can make decisions on actual data and not, well, the protocol said for
Feelings.
6 weeks, or Bob
Yeah.
said we need to do this. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I have, and this is the other thing is that if you haven't been humbled by the data before, you just don't know that. And I have been
Yeah.
humbled so many times where I
Oh,
think
yeah.
this is going to happen and then I get proven wrong time and time again. And that in like in the moment you're like, gosh, I hate this feeling, but in the long run I'm so grateful for that because I have again like this healthy respect for testing because I know I tend to be wrong. Like there's like you just can't like you can't be right all the time and you have to know that and when that gets proven to you time and time again you learn like okay, this is why this is important because even though I think I'm smart and I've done school for this long and I have all this experience like it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. So, and if you think that you're always right, that's a giant red flag.
Yeah. And that's, you can tell people who have, like yourself, have worked in research, but also have some clinical experience. They're almost like polar opposites. Like if I'm going to run a study, I want to do everything. I want to have a sham control. I want to do everything
Yeah.
possible so that there's not an effect of the placebo, blah, 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 blah. If there's an elite athlete in front of me, like they don't give a shit about it, what any of the research says. Like I got to
Yeah.
play in 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't really care what you do, but I'm going to play in 3 days. So make it go away. Fix the
Right.
thing as fast as you can. I don't care what the research says. I'm glad you read
Yeah.
it. I'm not going to read it. I don't even care if I'm the outlier from the research. Like, I'm
Right.
paying you a lot of money for a result. That's it, period.
Yeah. No. And that, right, this is not even to bash on the things that are not like supported by the research because I think that they have their place too. Like, I don't
Oh,
think
sure.
massage is going to fix anybody, but whether it's placebo, nocebo effect, whether it's just a sensory issue and it helps, whether it's promoting blood flow or
Yeah.
not, and they like it and it works in their mind, that those points go towards player availability. And that's if that's what gets your person on the field, then that's what works. And as long as you know that, right? As long as you're not
Yes.
hanging your hat on, hey, this cupping, this Graston, this massage is what fixed my person, and because it's magical, like, no, you should know that it's not, and that, whatever the other reasons were that helped, great. But again, just with a grain of salt and informing your athlete of that too needed, right? Or if they ask. And so I agree. I think the two can coexist. You just have to know when, where, and why.
Yeah. And by all means, like, always do more research. Like, whatever crazy
Hmm.
technique, like, I want to see more
Yeah.
research on it. And if there's something different or it changes or the mechanism or whatever. But kind of like what you said, the first question is, does it even work? Like, I
Yeah.
think unfortunately with research, it's very mechanistic based, and we're doing
Yeah.
mechanistic stuff before we even know if what we're doing is working, which is again why I like
Yeah.
your study. It's like, hey, is this method even better? Like, how about we start
Right.
there? Like, we can
Yeah.
argue about mechanism of muscle hypertrophy and strength and, rate coding and all the other principles, but
Right.
is this method better than this one? How about we start there and try to answer that question first?
Yeah, totally. And usually the answer is no. Usually it all works to an extent, just how you manipulate it and what's important to you. Is time more important to you? Do you care to be in the gym less, more? I don't know, right? So it might be better for one person who doesn't have a lot of time, but another person might be like, oh, I'm not looking for the least effective dose. I want to do the most. I want to do more. I want to be in the gym more. So, it's also subjective. Like some of these, is it better or not? Things comparison. So
Yeah,
that's
and
why science is fun.
that's like with the hypertrophy we talked about too. Like,
Yeah.
if you're a bodybuilder or a physique athlete, you don't really care about performance. You're not graded on
Yeah.
performance. Like,
Who cares?
to do things to get 5% more hypertrophy is probably well worth it to you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it seems also weird in the fitness space that even for general population, I feel like the default appears to be only hypertrophy. And I
Yeah.
would make an argument, I think you'd probably agree that yes, we want more muscle. Yes, we don't want
Right.
to lose muscle, but performance also
Quality.
matters at the end of the day too, in terms of just
Yeah.
sheer quality of life.
Yep. Quality of life, quality of said muscle, right? We don't just
Yeah.
want like big, bulky muscle. We want muscle that can do things and help us and move us and, so yes, I agree. I think I answered a question on my Instagram story about that. Something about it was something similar to like the quality of your muscle and setting performance goals, not just aesthetic goals, especially for
Yep.
the general population. A lot of people's goals are like, oh, how can I get bigger? How can I look better? Well, that's not always going to you know, carry you down the line, and it's not always going to build long, sustainable habits. And that's the goal is long, sustainable habits that you can utilize for the rest of your life. And so that's why I'm a big fan of performance goals and setting those because personally, at least anecdotally for me, if I'm just going to the gym to look good, it's not going to hold up. Like I'll go for like a couple days, a couple weeks, but if I'm going to the gym because I know that I made a public goal to deadlift 315 pounds by the end of the year, I'm going to go to the gym because I'm not going to fall back on that goal. And so I think that's the power of performance goals are just for adherence and longevity is, like I don't think there's anything else that kind of lines up.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing I do with all my clients. I take whatever their
Yeah.
goal is and I translate it into a performance goal, even if they're
Yeah.
a physique athlete. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, roughly, and even if I don't tell them, like in my head, I'm thinking, I want to
Yeah.
see about this weight, this amount. And like, yes, I understand you want to work more on your glutes or your shoulders or
Mhm.
whatever. But then I translate that into, okay, how much mechanical loading can we get? Can we get more volume? And
Yeah.
over time, you should get stronger. You should be able to do more volume with those things. And those are the things you can see like week to week. Like you could see a rep or two difference. Like even the average person, if you gain 2 pounds of lean body mass with no fat in a week, I, that's even hard pressed, I think, to even notice a difference if it was spread out over like, your whole physique.
Yeah.
So I think it's very hard to stay motivated when the thing you're trying to look at, maybe you get some of an accurate picture every 6 to 12 months. That's
Yeah.
that's hard. Where you
Totally.
could get
It's
like
yeah.
daily direction of, and it's not always going to be better, like when you go to the gym, at least for
Yeah.
performance rated stuff.
Yep. I 100% agree. That's exactly why I'm a huge fan and advocate for performance goals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And last question, and we'll ask you what do you got going on next. I feel like for female general population, even athletes, I feel like it's actually gotten better, and I think there is a much more emphasis on performance now than there ever used to be.
Yeah.
Where I feel like it's still a little bit like, yeah, it's still physique based, but I feel like at least for the women's athletes, and maybe this is from the Olympics or different things like that, I feel like
Right.
it's becoming much more accepted to be a female who actually focuses on performance. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. I totally agree. I'm a little hesitant to agree because I know that I surround myself with those kind of people. So
Oh, sure.
is it just my bubble that, is making me think this? But I would love to live in the blissful, ignorant, blissful world of yes, like women and performance goals and like people watching women's sports and the Olympics and different body shapes and different body sizes and awesome achievements that they can all, do and complete. So I do agree, like at least anecdotally in my bubble, I have seen, an increase in women doing awesome, cool things and not just being hyper focused on what they look like or aesthetic goals. So yes, I agree. And I hope it just continues to flourish and blossom.
And I lied. Second to last question. Do you feel like female athletes, when they focus more on performance, this is what I've noticed over many years. Like most of my clients, even though I write to dudes, like most of my clients are actually women. It seems to solve two issues. Like they get more focused on performance, so they don't get as hyper focused on physique, but yet their physique actually tends to improve faster. Like they get like
Agreed.
a 2 for 1. And I don't know if that's because they're more looking at performance, or it's because they have better proprioception, or they have better accuratation of what's actually in their body, or they realize more what they could do, or I don't know. That's just what
Yeah.
I've noticed over the last like 2 decades.
Yeah, I have to also agree because I've experienced that myself. Like I was a physique athlete and hyper focused on what I look like. And as soon as no competition was in sight, like my whole entire physique would change, not for the better, and I would become obsessed and upset, and it would interfere with my ability to even like get to the gym and stick to my goals. And that could have likely played a major role in my fitness, both like physically, mentally. And then once I kind of, got into the science of it all and adopted a more performance-based like foundation, I feel that I look the best, I feel the best, and I don't even worry about what I look. I mean, sometimes I forget to eat. Back when I was a bodybuilder, I would never even think about forgetting to eat. Like I was thinking
Yeah.
about eating every second of every day. And like this morning, I forgot to eat because I was so busy. And I just had a moment of self-reflection, like, wow, I actually forgot to eat. There was a time where I only thought about food 24/7. And yeah, I feel good. I have never been this strong. I've never been able to like run this fast, this long, and be this strong in my life. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think you can ask for anything more. And that all kind of happened when you let go of those shackles of just like working out to look good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
what do you have next? What's coming up?
NSCA's next week. So are you going to be there?
No, unfortunately I won't.
That's
So it
okay.
I've
You've
been
been
there in
all
the
over the
past and
place.
presented at
Yeah.
national, and yeah, it's always super
Hmm.
fun. Like just
Yeah.
great event, almost not in a bad way, almost a little overwhelming. There's always
Yeah.
like multiple stages that are going on at the same time that I wanted to see like both speakers, but it's always
Right,
fun.
right. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really next. NSCA's next, and then some traveling right before the school year starts and just hitting the road. And then school starts in August, and I've got a bunch of fun research projects, just collaborating with people. I just applied for like a mini grant at our school, hoping to do a cool magnesium study that I've
Oh,
been
interesting.
kind of
Magnesium intake
dying to
in
do.
athletes or
I think we're just doing Gen Pop right now. We haven't
okay.
finalized the proposal. It's been submitted for the grant, but still some room for changes. But I think it's just going to be in the general population. Yeah, I got a cool study with Jose, Dr. Antonio, with some BHB, kind of like the new caffeine, looking at
Oh,
that.
is that a ester or
Um,
a salt? Beta
I,
hydroxybutyrate, right? The
yeah, yeah,
ketone.
yeah, beta hydro, yep. I'm not actually the most familiar. He's the one that kind of was like, "Hey, let's do this together." I'm like, "Okay, tell me what to do." So that's gonna be fun. Getting in touch with him and like the ISSN has really opened up the door for all this like sports supplementation research. So I think that's really what's next. Although I'm always gonna have that training background and always gonna try to keep like the training studies going. But really, what's next, I think, is a lot of the sport nutrition research. And yeah,
Cool. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
So where can people find out more about you? I don't know if you work with athletes or you've got more website. I know you've
yeah,
got a lot of great stuff on social media, so
yeah,
tell
yeah,
us all
yeah.
about it.
Social media, social Instagram is usually where I'm at. I don't really do any other forms of social media besides Instagram. I have a LinkedIn, but I'm the most active on Instagram. You can find all my fun links there. You can find. I try to be as active as possible, posting stories. I've been doing those like Ask Me Anything
Oh,
stories. Those are
nice.
fun. Those are fun, and I'm always up for that. Yeah, email. You can email all my information's on my Instagram. So basically, if you find my Instagram, dr.antonella.schwarz, it's all there. I'm always on
Cool.
there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your time and
Yes.
sharing everything. And thank you so much for struggling through a chronic study, which we definitely need
Yeah.
more of those. It is a brutal thing. I've never done a full chronic study myself. I've always done just interventional stuff with multiple test points. And that was a big enough
Yeah.
pain in the ass. So
Yeah.
kudos
It's a
for getting that
mess.
done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Dr. Schwarz for being on the podcast and answering all my crazy questions. Really appreciate it. Make sure to check out all of her great information on primarily Instagram is the best place to find her. And really appreciate all of her time, her great talk at ISSN. If you're looking for the latest in training and nutrition, make sure to check out the ISSN next year. It'll be June somewhere in Florida. I don't know if they have a date announced yet, but I'll be there. It'll be super fun. This past year was great. And if you're looking for electrolytes, check out our friends LMNT below. If you're looking for some cognitive support for something that's not a stimulant based thing for later in the day, check out our friends over at Tecton Ketone Esters. And for all the latest information, hop on to my newsletter. We have a link down below. We'll send you a cool free gift. If you are interested in the online membership, drop me a note ASAP because that'll probably close pretty soon. And then we also have the Flexible Meathead course, the Level 2, which will be opening again August 11th. and I'll have all the information there, primarily to the newsletter. The first level was all on aerobic training, so your old school kind of cardio. The second level would be on more anaerobic training, which I know that's aerobic. Anaerobic's kind of an artificial, the linear line there, but just makes it easy to split all the course material out. So this will include everything from very short intervals to moderate based intervals to a lot more of the higher intensity work. How do you program that? How do you do it for people who are primarily lifting? They're not necessarily a endurance athlete. So newsletter will have all that information there. It starts August 11th. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Really appreciate it. You can help us out by hitting the like button, the subscribe, the download. Leave us a short review, whatever stars you feel is appropriate. All that wonderful stuff makes a huge difference on the old algorithms. If you are one of the rare people watching this on YouTube, I know most of this is audio, but if you are on the YouTube at the Flex Diet channel, if you could really help us out by hitting subscribe there. My goal this year is to get over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'll probably start doing more with that coming up. So thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Talk to all of you next week.
Did you see that?
Yes, the frog is certainly taking a beating on this show.
Yeah, it's hard to feel sorry for him. We take a beating every show.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should not use the information on the podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider before taking any medication or nutritional supplement, and with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this or any other podcast. Reliance on the podcast is solely at your own risk. Information provided on the podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship between you and any of the health professionals affiliated with our podcast. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to therein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.